Life on the Wildside has been lovely and slow this past week in the English countryside. We're taking it easy, spending our days out in nature, just foraging, delving into creative projects and exploring. Today we're parked up in Oxfordshire. We've heard about some flower fields in this area and have dreamed of seeing an abundant meadow for years and years.
When we arrived at this beautiful wildflower meadow, we were so surprised to see it because we truly thought that we had missed the spring bloom amongst the chaos of our last few months caring for Aaron's dad before he passed away. Without realising it, we'd really gotten into the habit of expecting and preparing for the worst case scenario. It really helped us to rekindle our optimistic and hopeful selves, seeing these beautiful poppies, cornflowers and daisies in full bloom so unexpectedly. It just helped us remember that there are actually so many wonderful things out there. We just need to start seeking them out again.
We couldn't help but notice how many bees, butterflies and other insects were flying around from flower to flower. We started to look closer at the intricacies of the blossoms, trying to imagine how it might look from the perspectives of those tiny creatures. Can you imagine being so small that poppies seem as large as trampolines? We later learnt that these flowers are even more magical than we knew, as most insects can see in ultraviolet light, revealing pigments and markings on the petals that are completely invisible to our human eyes. These secret flower markings are called nectar guides, and they help the pollinators to land on the pollen easily. There is so much ingenious beauty like these nectar guides hidden away in nature that we humans are just so unaware of.
We spent the whole afternoon just dwelling within that little world until the sun started to set and we made our way back home to the van for the evening.
Out in the wheat fields, Verity she hides. Under her feet there's a badger passing by. Further ahead she can see the robin.
As twilight fell, we settled down for the night, feeling really energized and grateful to have stumbled on a scene that we had dreamt of finding for so long. It's feeling like we can begin to let our guards down and be open to life's possibilities again. We're feeling very enchanted and hopeful for what tomorrow might bring.
In the place where she goes to listen and share all the little things.
The next morning, the sun was shining bright and we couldn't help but feel really positive, chatting about all sorts of road trip ideas for this summer as we went about our morning routine.
Funny how the mind plays tricks once you started questioning where you belong. Worried you got it all wrong. Just look at Verity, she's lost, but she's so happy.
So this last week we've been camping in the south of England, which isn't too far away from the coast where all the ferries leave to Europe, and it's been getting us thinking, wouldn't it be so fun to just try and see if we can get over to France?
Yeah, we've been over to Europe in the van quite a few times before, but never with Luffy, and the problem is that she's got a European pet passport that does have quite a lot of errors in it, doesn't it?
It's a pretty dodgy looking pet passport.
Yeah, so we could just turn up at the border and they might just turn us away and just say you can't come, so...
Yes, or you never know, they might not notice anything and we might be holding back for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, so we just decided to book a ferry to France for this afternoon, and they might just turn us away, but if they do, we've got a cool plan B, which is to road trip around Wales.
Yeah, but you never know, we might even be in a different country by this afternoon.
We set off from Oxfordshire, driving south for the ferry port in Dover in a strange state of nervous excitement as we went to find out whether we'd be spending our summer in Europe or in the UK. It was all riding on little Luffy as we got closer to the border crossing. With ours and Luffy's passports and her vaccination card at the ready, we reached the checkpoint and were so surprised at how relaxed they were. They didn't even ask to see Luffy, let alone look at any of her documents. They just waved us on. We're super unorganised people, and typically we were running pretty late for the ferry, so we had to rush to the boat, but thankfully we made it. We were the last campervan to squeeze onto the deck.
It all happened so fast that we didn't even have a chance to dawn on the fact that we were floating away on a spontaneous adventure with absolutely no plans.
Fields up ahead, there are horses on the graze. She wonders what it would be like for a day to eat all she wanted, be restful and lay.
After an hour and a half on the ferry, we docked in Calais at the very top of France. It's always a strange thought that our little wooden home and all our belongings have just floated across the sea and landed in another country, but here we are. There's not a great deal that interests us in the north of France, mostly because the nature here is very similar to what we can find in the British countryside. So we're driving all the way down to the Alps in the southeast of France. It's going to be a big 12-hour drive until we reach the mountains, and we're taking the scenic route. This way we avoid spending loads of money on toll roads, and we swap motorways for quaint little French villages and rolling hills.
Having said that, there's only so much driving we can do in one day, so we'll carry on tomorrow. For now, we're parking up for the night for some much needed rest. It's always a little bit freaky pulling over in an area you don't know in the pitch black, but sometimes it just can't be avoided. It's been a crazy day. We've not stopped driving since we made it over to France, and it's only now that we've finally settled down for the evening that we realised we made it over. We weren't expecting this, so we really don't have any plans.
No, usually when we come on a big European road trip like this, we come so prepared, and we've got this huge map full of loads of pins of locations that we want to see. But this time we've got no travel plans. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to just see loads of spots this trip. Maybe instead it can be about, just living slowly and having no expectations and just being in a place that brings us so much joy.
Yeah, we're hoping to recharge. It's been a really sad and stressful few months for us, so we've got about 30 days here in France, and we're going to head back to England after that, but we're going to try and spend as much of that time in the Alpine mountains as possible. When we pulled up here last night, it was pitch black, so we really didn't know what was around us, and it was a lovely surprise this morning because we looked out the windows and we saw all these lilac chicory flowers everywhere.
Yeah, it was just such a beautiful way to start the day. So the rest of the day we've got another big drive, one last day of driving, and then hopefully we can make it to the mountains by this evening. Before we leave, we can't resist foraging for some of the edible chicory flowers that are growing wild in absolute abundance here on the roadside. We'll be scattering them over our sandwiches later for a little herbal boost, as chicory helps with stomach and liver function. Learning about new wild plants that we come across on our travels and all their medicinal benefits is one of our all-time favourite things to do. It feels like we're collecting little scout badges from the endless well of plant knowledge out there.
It's time to set off on the road again. We've got about 6 more hours of driving to do, which feels like a lot, but we know that once we reach the mountains, we'll barely be driving at all for a few weeks because there's so much to see in that one area. But when we do have long drives like today, they seem to pass by pretty fast because we're either listening to audiobooks or singing along to our road trip playlists. We actually thought you might enjoy listening to them on your drives too, so we've put the playlist links in the video description. One of them is full of dreamy acoustic songs, perfect for daydreaming and staring wistfully out the window. The other playlist is nothing but good vibes, and it will transport you to the hippie days of flower power. We really hope you enjoy them as much as we do, and if there's any songs that you think need to be added into either playlist, let us know in the comments and we'll pop them on.
Everything breathes in the energy flow. So much to do in such little time. Leaves me with too many trees to climb. I can't escape.
We know we're getting closer and closer to the Alps because the landscape begins to change around us. The roads become twistier and steeper as we weave our way into the mountains. More and more pine trees start to engulf the roadsides, and our excitement builds, imagining the summer ahead of us. Our first stop is a big alpine lake at the very top of the French Alps. It's like the gateway to this magical region. It's called Lake Annecy, and although it's a little more popular than the places we usually visit, it's a really great spot for wild swimming, and we can camp for free right here by the water's edge. After a few days of long summer drives without any aircon in the van, we have been itching to just dive into the water and cool down.
Into the depths of the great unknown, scented by earthy and floral tones. Everything breathes in the energy flow. So much to do in such little time. Leaves me with too many trees to climb. I can't escape, but I have to try to get a grip of my worrying mind.
Watching dusk fall over the mountains feels so comforting, and it dawns on us that we're finally back in our favourite area of the world. All those hours of driving are already worth it, and we can't wait to see the turquoise glow appear in the water when the morning sun rises tomorrow. For now though, it's time to celebrate by cooking up a hearty meal on our little camping stove. We're keeping it simple this evening with a quick one-pot pasta dish. It's honestly just nice to sit outside for a few hours after being cooped up driving for a couple of days. We stayed out here chatting by the water until the stars appeared one by one and the night set in.
If you enjoyed watching this, there are loads more relaxing vlogs of our van life adventures in forests, meadows and mountains coming soon. So be sure to subscribe to our channel where we share our simple life of freedom, parking our little cabin on wheels out here on the wild side.